Joining us now is Congressman Scott Rigell. He is from the 2nd District in Virginia. He's a Republican, and he's come under fire from a nefarious group called the National Association for Gun Rights, also referred to as NAGR, who has been taking out ads against the congressman, both on TV and radio. Now they're doing email blasts. And we can't seem to figure out exactly what the congressman did wrong. How are you, Congressman Rigell?
Well, good morning. Good morning, Tom. Good to be with y'all this morning. Back on the show.
Always a pleasure to have you with us. I'm going to get right to this issue, and I'm going to start with this group called NAGR, National Association for Gun Rights. Why don't we just start with who are these people?
Well, I've gotten to know them only in the last couple of months. I've been a lifelong hunter, NRA member, and just a strong defender of our Second Amendment. I'd never heard of them before until they came in somewhat of a little bit of a blitzkrieg approach in the 2nd District. It's a group that I think really does have a even though they, on the surface they say they're trying to defend our Second Amendment, I really see it as a perverse mission here, because they aren't enhancing or elevating a thoughtful discussion or debate, or really, I don't even think in some sense even protecting the Second Amendment, because they all they do is they just incite people. They truly do lie about people. I know, because I'm on the receiving end of this, and we reached out to them, tried to meet with them just to say, look, do you not understand the facts? Here's what's going on. But it's clear to me there's groups on the harshest hard right and on the harshest hard left that truth doesn't matter, and they're basically a big scam fundraising machine is really all I can see.
Well, I think that's. I think that's all it is. Look, up till these attacks on yourself and others, I want to mention they've attacked Majority Leader Eric Cantor. It's tough to find any evidence that Cantor's now all of a sudden become a liberal. They've attacked two good friends of mine in Georgia, Senator Johnny Isakson, one of the most conservative members of the U.S. Senate there is. They've attacked Congressman Phil Gingrey from Georgia, who was a gun owner himself. So, this doesn't make any sense. And I want to get to the fact of the matter. The NAGR, National Association for Gun Rights, congressmen that have taken these negative ads out against you in the 2nd District of Virginia. The genesis of it, I understand, was your co-sponsor of a bill in the House to increase the penalty for people that purchased a firearm legally and then sold it to someone else illegally, in a sense, because the person they sold it or transferred it to could not buy it themselves legally, right?
Well, to be even more precise there, John, they did not purchase it legally because they were falsely stating the intent of the purchase. That is, they represented the sale to be for themselves, knowing at the time of purchase that they were purchasing it for. We're probably saying the same thing, but technically it's not as if they purchased it legally. They, because you do sign a form saying that this, the firearm's for yourself and not intended for someone else, and so that's called a straw purchase, and straw purchasers, they really, so much damage, horrible things have happened as a result of straw purchase. The first responders up in New York who were gunned down, that was a straw purchase. We actually had an incident many years ago in Chesapeake, Virginia, where a gentleman bought a handgun for a 16-year-old. The 16-year-old actually picked the gun out, and then months later, that same weapon was used by that student to kill his teacher. And that's a straw purchase. And I have a problem with that. And the penalties of, talking to our federal prosecutors and talking to law enforcement officials, the law was not clear on this. The penalties were not sharp enough. And we wanted to push back on that and make it more difficult for people to do that, and for it to carry a heavier penalty. And that's what the bill does. It has nothing to do with taking away any firearm. It doesn't register guns, create a registry of guns or gun owners. I do not support that. And it doesn't do anything about magazine clips or anything else. It's very narrow. And that in and of itself was enough reason for this group to completely disregard the truth and put out this really comprehensive media assault in the 2nd District, robocalls, direct mail, TV, radio, all of it, saying that I was leading Barack Obama's gun scheme and taking away guns, and it really is just bizarre. And here's the perverse nexus of this. It's within my own party, the Republican Party, is that there are members, both in the House and the Senate, at least one member in the Senate, that are directly associated with the group and are raising money for the group. And I have, as you know, been calling attention to this, and I'm not going to stand by and just watch this happen. Now, what my hope is that members, once they realize that this group really doesn't care about the truth, that they'll stop supporting the group. But I'm not going to let go of this because it's hurting our party. This is what's wrong with America. Groups like this, they're hurting our country.
Oh, there's no question, and I think you have to stand up to it. That's why I appreciate your coming on and sharing it. I tell you one of the things that bothered me, and I want to, if I can, indulge you for a second.
Sure.
And direct our audience to the article that was written on you in the National Journal. You can just go to nationaljournal.com, Scott Rigell, and that story will be up there by Ron Fonatier, an excellent piece on it. But what has disturbed me on what went down is that one of the leaders of the fundraising chain behind NAGR, National Association for Gun Rights, is Republican Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. Now he signs their fundraising letters. He puts his name on their emails. I mean, he's behind it. So you see his name. He gives a passionate plea to send money into the NAGR. And then the NAGR takes this money and they attack people like yourself, Phil Gingrey, Johnny Isaacson, Eric Cantor, people like that are trying to do the right thing, basically. They don't have the facts. It's all a crock of lies. But the money is being generated at its genesis from Senator Paul in Kentucky. Here's what fries me. Here's what fries me, okay? Many times we all understand that a congressman or a senator or governor, whatever, they may get involved with a fundraising effort, not knowing exactly what happens with the money. We all kind of understand how that game works. But you physically reached out to the senator and his staff and asked him what the deal was, made him aware of it, and he basically said, "Go pound sand," right?
Yeah, that's the layman's term for it, John. Exactly. A person is responsible, I think, in this context for what they know, not for what they don't know. And so when I first realized, it was actually my brother, John, from West Palm Beach, Florida. We're both strong Second Amendment rights guys. Our dad took us duck hunting when we were 10 and 12 years old, and actually earlier than that. And so he actually joined this group about 4 months ago directly as a direct result of an email that he got, and it says ron.paul@nagr.org. So this idea that he doesn't, he's not really associated with the group is just laughable. So here's the email comes in from Rand Paul, and says, hey, this is a fine group of people. Literally, it says that. And, sign up with them to stop the gun taker schemes and all that stuff. And so my brother David signs up. Well, then a few months later, he reads, he's scrolling down one of the emails, and he sees my name there, and he's just stunned. And he calls me, and of course I was surprised as well. And And I thought, well, gosh, I'm sure that the senator, he must not know about this. And so we started out reaching out to his chief of staff. I actually had a phone call with him. He expressed surprise. He didn't know about it. He'd get back to us. And then the next morning I wrote a 2-page handwritten letter because I just thought, he really needs to know how serious this is, that he's raising money for a group that's attacking a fellow Republican falsely. And after that and all of that and exchanges with him and his chief of staff, about 48 hours later, we got the answer was tough.
Well, here's the bottom line.
I told my chief of staff, I said, wrong answer. I'm not going to stand by and watch this. That is not going to happen.
Well, Congressman, that is political myopia of the worst kind. It really demonstrates what's the matter, as you say, with the system in D.C. And for somebody like Rand Paul, an up-and-coming senator who wants to run for president, basically, in my judgment, this is just my commentary, what Rand Paul has done is he said, hey, the heck with Rigell, the heck with Isaacson, the heck with Phil Gingrey, the heck with
the heck with the truth, the heck with the truth, John.
The heck with everything. This group might help me raise money to win the Iowa caucuses or the New Hampshire primary. And so at the end of the day, it's all about me, Rand Paul, and screw everybody else. I don't see how you could break this down any other way. I am totally outraged by it. Just based on that, I think it shows a lack of character, of judgment, of civility, and I would never be involved with any Paul effort for president or anything else, just based on the fact that he said, screw everybody else.
Well, there was a demarcation line here for me, and that is when he was, we gave him all the data. We gave him the emails, we gave him the direct mail pieces, what they were saying. I pointed out, I circled everything. I said, Rand, here's where this is factually not correct. This is not correct. This is not correct. This is false. And, he had all the data, and I was hoping really so much that we could just, resolve this amicably, and it would, he'd say, oh, Scott, I'm so sorry. Now that I know, thank you for bringing this to my attention. I don't want to be a part of this. No, I got the opposite. And I want to make sure that every listener hears this, John, and is that I expect, in fact, I invite at every public opportunity I have and every time I have a chance to talk to the public, I expect to be held accountable for my votes and what I'm an advocate for. This is essential to good governance. I want people to examine my record on the Second Amendment. It's a critical topic. It must be examined, and my record on spending, my record on tax reform, and all of that. And I'm okay with, not only am I okay with it, I want to be held accountable for what I believe and what I vote for. But for someone to saddle up with this group who is knowingly, deliberately, recklessly misrepresenting who I am and what I believe, then it is a question of character. And we need to have the courage within our own party to call it out when it is the case. And I don't know exactly what the repercussions are against pushing back on all this, but so be it. And I mean that, because this is what's wrong in part with our country. And I thought what his chief of staff said was so telling in their reply there in the first Political article. There's been some articles in Politico, including today. He said, well, Senator Paul routinely, sends out or endorses activist fundraising letters that are routine and run-of-the-mill. This is a routine and run-of-the-mill activist letter. And I said, therein lies the point. This is routine. This is run-of-the-mill. And this is what's wrong. That the truth doesn't matter. And groups on the right that do this are no less culpable and hurting our country than the groups that do it on the left.
The truth be damned if it can raise an extra $1 for a presidential campaign, because that's what's really going on here. Groups like NAGR are only made credible on the fundraising end of it when people like Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky sign up and attach their name and their credence to this type of an organization. So for them to for Rand Paul to then wash his hands of it like Pontius Pilate and say, I'm not involved, I simply signed it, and you're on your own.
That's the best analogy I've heard there, John. I'm sorry to interrupt, but Pontius Pilate, that is exactly, the groups aren't interested in informing, they're interested in inciting. If your listeners read these emails, every word, every sentence is carefully crafted to deceive and to incite people and to rev people up and to scare people. And it's wrong. And I tell you what, for little old Virginia 2, we're gonna slug back at this. I'm not afraid of those fellas, and we're gonna keep speaking the truth. And they're running some ads right now. They're trying to down in Virginia 2. But you know what I've found, and this is so encouraging, is that people, there's a deep sense within, I think, each and every person, a deep sense of what's reasonable, what's true, they know when they're being lied to. People really do. They'll figure this out, and they are. The response within the district has been tremendous. Strong Second Amendment folks are saying, Scott, we know who you are. This isn't you, and we know it's not you. And it's really, I think, having the opposite effect of what this group wants. Now, a couple of people, they'll call the office, they say, now, what's going on? This doesn't sound like Scott. Well, here's the record. Here's what Scott believes. Here's what his record is and his votes are, and people are going, okay, that's what we thought. So if they want to spend their money in Virginia, too, that's fine. I mean, they aren't going to be successful. They just aren't. We can't let them.
The only way they're not going to be successful is if people like yourself fight back and don't pull any punches back and not operate out of fear. I think that's how you're handling it, and I'm going to keep getting the word out. We want to thank you for joining us today. Scott Rigell.
Good to catch up with you. Thanks so much.